Yeah, and I thought it was such a nice answer. I really thought it was accurate to start off with. And it was just very nicely put in a very comprehensible way. So anyway, devotees, friends, very nice to be with you. I hope you're enjoying the festival. As Maharaj said, our sessions here are on the short side. But let's see what we can do. First of all, some prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swadaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachari Shatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vajkam Trubhyas Chakripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Well, you know, they gave me a topic, the power of association, which we could write a book about. We could probably write a couple of books about, and talk for hours and days. But under the circumstances, just let me say a few words about association. You know, there's a saying, sort of a saying, maybe not official, but there's a saying. If you associate with thieves, you become a thief. Or, in principle, whoever you associate with, you become like them. Or, not even exactly that, but whoever's association you accept and absorb, then you become like them. But if you give people your association, they'll become like you. So therefore, I mean, this is something which is understood pretty much in life in general. This is not like some psychological, philosophical rocket science or something like that. It's common sense. But as they say, I'm sure you've heard the saying, the problem with common sense, right? You know the problem with common sense is that it's not so common. Yeah, it's a problem. But anyway, this is the idea. You know, when I was young, I was young once, but it was really a long time ago. I used to go out distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in the streets of London and England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales and everything. Every day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7, but generally 6, for usually around 8 hours a day. We'd start 9, take a little break for lunch, and usually finish around 6. And we're just meeting people and speaking to people, and sometimes we have to discuss a little bit with them, trying to distribute Prabhupada's books. But we made a point. You know, sometimes when you're doing that, you have to let the person say something about themselves. But you don't want to let them get into a whole presentation, because we're trying to present to them. we're trying to present Krishna consciousness to them. So for courtesy, we wouldn't just dominate them completely. We'd be a little back and forth would be there. But really, we wanted to give them Krishna consciousness. So, we would try to sort of, you could say, manage the conversation in nice ways. Not being like bullies, but still, kind of control the conversation so it's focused on Krishna. And because we were doing that and talking about Krishna and what is Krishna consciousness, even though we're usually in the middle of a big city, for a few years, I was doing this in London, right in the center of London, every day. And it's very materialistic. It makes Durban look like a village, at least West Street. Yeah, like a bit of the backwater. And then all these people that we're dealing, because we had a motto when we were distributing books: 100 a day keeps Maya away. This was our motto. Means we try to distribute 100 books a day each. And normally we do it. Sometimes 120, sometimes 150, sometimes 300. So it means we're interacting with a lot of people. But at the end of the day, even though we've been, you could say, associating with these people who are all in these different spaces of their own, usually with nothing or very little to do with Krishna consciousness, but by the end of the day, we would be feeling quite exhilarated because we had been talking about Krishna and not too much hearing about, these nice people, what my idea is, what I think, and what I don't think, all that sort of thing. If we just listened to them, by the end of the day, we would be confused and probably depressed, or at least disappointed. But because we're speaking about Krishna, then we felt exhilarated at the end of the day. Because when you talk about Krishna, Krishna is there. You're associating with Krishna in what is called technically his Vani form. V-A-N-I, Vani, means Krishna's form in the form of his instructions, but he's present. So it's association. You're associating with Krishna when you talk about him. So at the end of the day, we feel really, better than we felt in the beginning of the day, actually. It's really nice. So, in one sense, I'm recommending, why don't you all try to distribute Prabhupada's books? It would be an excellent idea, actually. Yeah. So that's a little bit about association. Now, I have some questions here. Actually, I have 4, which, I could probably at least try to answer fairly quickly. So if any of you have any other questions, is there a question sheet going around? Or? Anyway, we'll take more questions shortly. So here we go. Please listen carefully. Here's an interesting question. At which point does a soul occupy a new body? Is it at conception? The short answer is yes. That's one word, 3 letters, with an exclamation mark, you could say. Yes. At the instant of conception, when, don't mind the explicitness, but would you believe, I've been reading the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam every day, except today. But yesterday I was reading, and there is that particular part, chapter 30, chapter 31, it's all about this. It's all about conception and how it works. That when the semen, excuse the explicitness, of the male contacts the ovum of the female, conception occurs. And that the soul enters the ovum. Conception has occurred, and the living entity, the soul, is now at least in the egg, which is going to develop in due course into you or me. Yeah. So when I first looked at this question, I thought that the question was going to be something like, how long after death is it after the death of the body, how long after that does the soul, well, sort of same idea, the interim period before conception? If that was the question, a quick answer, not a one-word explanation, quick answer. Just a brief answer would be, how different compared to the previous? If the new body, like a human being, the new body is going to be something really different, like an animal. Or how about a cockroach? No kidding. That's a really different body. And there is a process of preparation for the soul, not just the soul, but the soul and the subtle body, the mental, the psychological body. There's a process of preparation which has to go on so that when the person enters the new body, they feel at home. This is me. This is really me. But if you're still human consciousness and you entered into the body, I mean, just any non-human, like a dog or a cat, to speak of a cockroach, you would feel a bit of a misfit, wouldn't you? Now, what is this? What am I doing here? Just too much. So there's a process of training. And at the end of the day, when the person is put, the soul meets the person with now the adjusted, modified psychology, which is now the psychology of that what is the next birth is going to be. Then they feel at home. Yeah. So here's the second. Entity is suffering in the womb. He or she prays to the Lord, aged devotional service, devotee of the Lord. Why? At the time of birth, Maya, illusion, the influence of the nature. At the time of birth, Maya makes us forget Krishna. You know, seriously, yesterday, exactly at and if you to read it for yourself, read I couldn't tell you the verse number, but chapter 31 of the third canto. Prabhupada specifically talks about this. And Prabhupada, you know what Prabhupada says about this exact point, that up until the actual exit from the womb into the outside world, as the exit is really like in the last stage of just kind of bursting out, then Prabhupada, what I read yesterday, Prabhupada said, the agony is so extreme. And it's not just like, you know, some agony just like, oh, it hurts. But it goes on for some time. Takes a while for the child to come out of the womb. Doesn't it? Before the after the contractions start, right? And, you know, then so on and so on and so on. And then suddenly, pop! It doesn't happen like, oh, that's what they told me. Oh, they told me it's quite fun. No, it's not. It's agonizing. And it's like for some hours. Wow, it's extreme. And the living entity loses consciousness and then regains consciousness and loses consciousness and regains. And it's going on like that. And this is what Prabhupada said. If you don't believe me, read chapter 31. And you could also look at chapter 30 of the third canto. Yeah, I read it yesterday and the day before. So there you go. That's the answer, according to the Vedic version, you could say, and specifically according to Srila Prabhupada. So here's another one. Wow, this is amazing. Does the soul occupy a new body? Isn't that amazing? All these questions on the same subject. Does the soul occupy a new body immediately after leaving the last body it is occupied? If not, what happens in between moving from one body to the next? Well, whoever asked this, please don't mind. I just explained that about 10 minutes ago. I explained this exact point. The principle is, it depends how different the next body is. And if it's going to be another human body, particularly like, shall we just say, and I'm not being facetious at all, another Hindu body of the same gender, then the time in between is going to be very short. But if you're going from whatever, some type of human into, you know, like we were saying, even a cockroach, Let me tell you an interesting thing. I couldn't believe it myself. Last night, I gave a class to a whole lot of devotees in Russia. Would you believe? And one of them, the person's surname, and I couldn't believe it, because I understand a reasonable amount of Russian. His surname was, if you translate it into English, cockroach. I'm not kidding. Talakan. You've learned a Russian word now. Talakan. Or Talakanov is the possessive form. The possessive form of the cockroach. Haribol. I didn't ask her, where did you get name like that from? But in Russia, sometimes they have strange names. There is a surname, not common, but it's there, Tractor. Mr. Tractor. And Mr. Grape. Really? Mr. Grape. Yeah. It's not an uncommon surname. And Mr. Pumpkin. Anyway, let's not get into Russia too much. It's inauspicious nowadays. Oh, Krishna. Okay, now this is the last question I have. There is something that has been bugging me for a while. Oh no, this is the same. You already answered that. This is about the Christian family and, how to be nice to them without sort of caving in or... Okay, so we won't bother with that. Because like I said, Raj gave such a nice answer. I'm going to try and get a recording of it. So I have, let me do a time check. Is our next person... Anyway, just do something when the next person comes. So I have 2 more questions here. How to deal with family members who are not Krishna conscious, especially when they obstruct the practice of Krishna consciousness. Well, Maharaj gave such a nice answer too, it's a related to some degree type of question. I'm going to give another short, but depending on the circumstances, I would say it could be quite appropriate answer. If you've got family members who are not Krishna conscious and they obstruct your practice, I assume you're living at home with them. So here's a quick answer. Move out. How's that? And I'm not joking either. Move out. If you're a big boy or a big girl, means, well, you know what? I moved out when I was 18. I don't think I'm a very good example, but I did. And then I moved back in about a year and a half later. Anyway, but my parents were okay. Enough. So yeah, you could move out. You could, although it's quite likely you've come to this point that I'm going to mention already, but if you hadn't, then you could try sitting them down and nicely presenting some things. And, like how nice Krishna consciousness is, because it's very nice. And as Maharaj was saying, Well, I mean, it was part, maybe a little indirect, but when you become Krishna conscious, generally, you become much nicer than you were. Really. I mean, I'm not that nice, but you should have seen how I was. I have specifically avoided writing a biography, even though a number of people have insisted that I do, because if I did, you would all be too shocked. And then I'm not joking, you would all walk out of this tent right now. Because my background, before becoming Krishna conscious or joining ISKCON, shall we say, it was too extreme. So you could try that, sitting them down, talking to them, and trying to help them appreciate that, you know, they may have some sort of prejudiced, stereotyped idea in their heads. Like I heard Maharaj say, we do not break families up, right? We are strongly, staunchly opposed to breaking up our families. And personally, I never advise it unless there's been violence, physical violence. If it's just, you know, some emotional, psychological, and, you know, your partner is a bit awkward and sometimes a bit grumpy, then we will practically always advise, try to tolerate. Because you know why? In the end, we have to tolerate the time of death. And it is, and we were just talking about the time of rebirth, but before that, before you're reborn, you're going to die. And the time of death is no joke at all. It's very extreme. Very extreme. And it requires a lot of tolerance, patience, being able to handle pain without, you know, losing it, but rather keeping focus. And the thing about learning tolerance and like that, of course, just through practicing Krishna consciousness, chanting, reading, serving, associating, and like that, just by doing that, without making any extraneous effort that, yeah, now I'm going to try and become tolerant, but just practicing. Tolerance will develop, at least to some degree. But the thing is that unless you have practice tolerating, it is difficult to learn tolerance. If you don't go through situations where you practice tolerating, becoming very tolerant to tolerate death, it may be too difficult, actually. You know, just like driving a motor car, if you don't practice it, you're not going to just jump into the motor car and just drive it at some point. You're going to practice, and practice makes perfect. So similarly, I mean, that is there in Krishna consciousness, and therefore tolerating. I mean, you don't need to answer this, but who doesn't have a partner, I mean husband or wife, who sometimes sometimes is a bit, you know what I mean. A bit of a case. Have any of you who are married, and I mean for some good number of years, have any of you never come to the point, never, that, oh my God, what's he doing? Or what's she doing? Don't answer, don't answer. Yeah. So, 2 minutes, all right. Right, yes. So, tolerating a well-meaning person who in their own way has your interests at heart and really wants to work with you and be with you. Yeah. So, bit of tolerance, yeah, for sure. It's an opportunity to develop tolerance which will help you at the time of death, or even just in your old age. I'm looking around at you all here, and I don't know, I think I may not be the oldest person here, but I'm one of the oldest. There's a saying I just learned. It's a really good one. Listen to this. Old age is not for sissies. Old age. Not, 50 or 60. That's not old age. 70s plus. I mean, I haven't gone beyond the 70s, but I'm in the 70s. And I can tell you, old age is not for sissies. I tell you what. Yeah, it's not easy. And to have some tolerance already, and some patience like that is so helpful. Okay, well, thank you for listening very patiently. And our next speaker, I believe, has arrived. Yes. And I don't actually know who it is.
Sabyasachi.
Who is it?
Sabyasachi Maharaj.
Oh, it's Sabyasachi.